How are things at Brown Harris these days?
So I just had a conversation with Bess, our CEO. I mean,
Is that my best? She's the best.
I will.
Right.
I think she made the connection here. So
I did.
things seem to be good. We're very focused on training buyers and sellers to understand what it means, what the virtual touring process is going to mean for our buying. And really, buying is the same thing, just on the seller side, how buyers are going to experience property for sellers.
Backwards, right.
The other side. So
right.
I'm neck deep in that explanation, pulling everybody along. And I'm talking to Beth, I call it brokerage 3.0. First was, you didn't know what you were going to see. You had a classified ad, whether you were, Brown Harris has been doing this for a
couple of days,
since 1873
right.
or whatever. That was the, brokerage 1.0 forever. 2.0 is when I sort of started in the business, floor plans, static photos. You thought you knew what you were going to get into. You walked in, maybe it was right, maybe it was not. And now you know what you're going to see before you see it.
Sure.
So I think it's like really a process of educating. And I think a lot of brokers, it's like working out, back to working out. Like, people forgot how to engage in a process of conversation around buying. Like,
yep.
how do you represent a seller? Somebody asks me if they want to see an apartment. How are we restarting the market? Because it really is going to restart in 2 or 3 weeks.
And everybody's been underwater. So now, someone literally 20 minutes ago said, well, what's it going to look like on June 8th or 9th? And I said, first of all, I don't want to be part of that first group of people at Best Buy trying to get the $300 television on Black Friday. Let everybody else go in. I'll wait. I'll see you on Tuesday or Wednesday. But the whole economy, the whole market has been underwater for 12 weeks. Now you pop up, first thing you want to do is breathe. You don't want to start swimming again. You don't want to go back and do more laps. So, it's going to be interesting. And I think patience is going to be important, but you hit it on the head. It's a 3.0 world now. It's like, okay. And you got to be efficient. And, just when you thought you had some semblance of it, now we have the latest current events going on.
Yeah.
And it definitely takes it out of you.
Yesterday was a hard day for me.
Yeah.
And I'm generally living in the future. Like, I'm only just living like what's next. And that's where I spend most of my time. But yesterday I was in the present of the mess, and it was a hard day. I've got so many people who care about me reaching out from around the country. Like, are you okay? And like, let's just be grateful for having people who care about us, right?
Absolutely. What'd you want to be when you were a kid?
When I was a kid, I thought about being an architect. I was like, I want to build and design houses. I grew up in New Orleans, which has a rich architectural history. Where Emeril's restaurant is in New Orleans, that area is called the Warehouse District.
Yes.
That's my dad had a hardware business right in one of those buildings. It's now, a lot more lofty Soho kind of Warehouse District is what they call it. But my mind was always around cool architecture. And then as I got older, just turns out I was much more engaged with people and sales. And only when I was 28, which was on the back end of a music career, where I was a touring singer and musician after college. I did that for 5 years. I moved to New York, and people know you much better than you know yourself. I mean, that is proven to be true time and again. I was talking to my family. I said, I'm really looking for what's next. I was booking bands and putting bands on the road, and I opened an office here for that. I used to live in Boston. I moved here. And my family said, Scott, you'd be a really good real estate agent. I'm like, well, I'm looking for what's next for me. I'm certainly not going to throw out, and I'm not a no person. I'm not a no. I'm a yes almost all the time.
Sure.
So when someone says, try this on, I'll say, let me give it a shot.
Right.
Took the class, got licensed, went interviewed with a few people. And I thought I would hear no from people like, oh, we don't have space for you. Everybody said, oh, you're a Penn grad. You spent the last 5 years booking bands, and that's really much harder than this.
Right.
Come to work. And it was like duck to water kind of stuff. And it's the architecture, the love of architecture, my sort of curiosity about people and what they do and what makes them tick.
Sure.
And all came together. And it was just like a perfect fit from minute one.
How many years ago was that?
That was 2003. So it's been a good 17 years.
17 years. That's great. And you still love it?
I still love it. And what I collect, I'm always listening for like, what are people looking for? My default is, how can I help you? How can I help you? And it's like constantly putting connections and how can I bring people together?
Sure.
It's the same as putting deals together. I would say it's more satisfying when you make them. It's like getting that clarity on what's going to work for someone. That's the real satisfying piece. I mean, yes, the deal and like negotiating the deal, there's definitely juice in that. And I love that, but it's the people that really is what drives me, and seeing people they come to New York, they have a real desire to do something. They're not here because it's easy.
Right. No.
They're here because
Well
they're
said.
driven to be here.
Yeah.
And first, that's not going to change after all this is done, but it's that drive to create something and put it into the world and a vision for what they want to do with their lives. And I get to be a part of that. And I think it's really, I love that part of it. And that has never changed.
So what's keeping you motivated? And then the other side of it is, what's keeping you grounded in a time when you think you got some level, bam, you get hit with something else again. And I agree with you. Yesterday was one of those days where it was like, I don't really want to do anything. Thank you. See you tomorrow.
Right. So what keeps me grounded? I will say publicly to everyone that they should all have a coach. They should all have some kind of a business coach and a practice that keeps them grounded. So every day it's like, what am I grateful for? What am I proud of? I feel really lucky. I have an amazing team behind me. We meet every day and we start our day kind of in that mode also. So that definitely keeps me reminded and grounded about like what is important.
Sure.
But like I said, I'm constantly thinking about what are we working towards? What are we doing today to work towards a vision?
Sure.
I never realized that that's not how everyone lives.
No.
And so I know what I want to do next. I'm constantly tinkering with the business. I'm like, how do I make things work better? How do I improve? How do I get more? How do my clients really get the full the full services of what we have to offer? And and so it's like a constant of staying focused on that. It's like, okay, we want to be the absolute best agents in the city. We want to run a team that has integrity. All of the things that how we want to live our lives in it. And how do we bring all of this to real estate?
Sure.
And so every day it's something that's what keeps me motivated and excited. And through this, I assume that like the money part of this is going to work out. I mean, I've always lived my life like it's going to work. I'm going to figure out a way to make it work, whatever it was. And so I put all of that to the side. I just said, what can I do for my clients?
Sure.
And 6 weeks ago, we came up with this crazy idea to connect movers to people who were doing spring cleaning. How do we bring that together? We created this spring cleaning initiative. We ended up with like over 1,500 people, that we've helped to get their stuff out of their houses. We was on WABC, it was on New York One. It turned into this massive thing. And that just was like, how can we help clients in a time like this? So it's been I think a very creative period if you let it be. If you focus on the things that like, what can I do during this time? What if this were easy? What if, how do we make it easy for our clients to move forward in their lives through this? It's because I don't like when people tell me I can't do something.
Right. Right. It's been the most creative time of my entire career.
I'm glad. I'm
And,
glad.
and it's given a lot of time to think, sometimes think about good things, sometimes
Right.
think about not so good things.
Yeah.
But you're right. The money is either going to work itself out or it won't. And if it won't, that's a whole different dynamic. You know, jump off that bridge when you get to it.
Right.
I completely agree with that. But
yeah, we've had an opportunity to look at our business. Since I started in real estate 17 years ago,
sure.
I don't know how to stop. How do you turn off? I can't turn off. My brain works. It just continues to do. So it's been amazing. I mean, I brought on a COO in March 1. He started March 1. We never would have had the time to look at the business, what's working, what isn't working, who's working, who's not. You know, what are we going to do going forward to turbocharge the business? So
how big is the team?
Right now we are 5, and we're looking for 2 not new agents, but 2 new people to join the team. So we've been really having conversations with people who are forward thinking, who are positive, who are high touch sales, but really get the fact of what it is we're doing for our clients.
And
it's not transactional. It's not transactional.
No, it's all relationships. It's all connections and relationships. Without that, I had a conversation with somebody who's launching a business, and they're talking about how great the new product is, and I go, people want to hear your story. There's 20 of what you're talking about, but they want to connect with you, and their story happens to be unbelievable. So I said, well, if the story is unbelievable, why are you burying the story?
Right. You got to lead with the inspiration.
Absolutely.
And so what we've been doing all this sales training for our team, and people, it becomes most of life, most of getting things done, at least, as we see our clients, it's actually making sure we keep them out of their own way, because people get defensive and all their stuff. It's like people joke it's about being a therapist. I was a psych minor. I started as a psych major, but that's the work. The work is keeping people out of their own way. Absolutely. And making sure you keep them inspired and focused on what's next for them.
Right.
And so part of that is not focusing on mortgage rates or any of the nuances of getting past the co-op board. Sure. It's inspiring them that we have what it takes to get them from, we're always the captains of the ship. It's always a storm. I mean, the process is crazy, even in the best of times.
That's right.
So this feels very normal to me.
Right.
This kind of crazy time. People always are looking to us, to me, to be calm, focused on the lighthouse.
Someone's got to be. It's got to be you.
Got to be.
Not going to be them.
Let's talk about some construction for a minute. I mean, you catch people, and people. I mean, I've seen your projects. They're beautiful. Like you're dealing with captains of industry, super high power people who know how they run their business. Expect you, unless you teach them, expect you to operate on the way that they do business. So it's like that. How do you navigate? Because there's always problems in that process. It's inherent.
It's a therapy job.
Yeah.
It's a job of keeping people, even you talk about, like we were talking earlier about this restart thing, and everybody's like, what's going to happen on Monday? And I go, I'm going to get some coffee around 10 o'clock and I'm going to see how it's going to go. Now, when you explain it to them, then it sounds plausible. And they're like, I'm going with your plan. I said, or we can waste a lot of money at 9:15 in the morning. What are you kidding? And there are very few benefits of getting older. This is my 30th year doing renovations, but I swear the number one benefit is just having the focus and the head to say, it's going to be fine.
I'll never forget. I mean, I adore, when we did our renovation, I worked with an architect, an Upper West Side guy named Alan Berman, who you may know. Alan's at some point in the renovation, he said, Scott, this is the point in the renovation when everybody freaks out.
Right.
And it was like, oh, this is normal. It was like someone gave me permission to freak out,
right.
but also the perspective to say, well, maybe I shouldn't be freaking out right now because this is typical. And the question when I engaged, I went in saying, when I'm going to do my first renovation, I want to leave this process loving my architect, loving my contractor, and learning something in the process. That was like my outcome. I wanted to be happy. I wanted it to be, and I knew there would be bumps. I knew I'd be yelling at, having heated conversation, but I used my architect. I said, is this something I should be freaking out about? Am I overreacting? Please tell me if I'm wrong.
Sure.
I needed that third party to guide me because I wanted to love my contractor.
But that makes you a good client.
Right.
Because you're inclusionary, you're not doing this.
Right. And I think it does have to do with how people do business day to day. But I really, for me, it's how are we advising our clients? How are we advising them? Hey, I love you. We all have the same goal. And I know that you want me to do this. Let me just give you a different perspective on why I'm advising we do it this way.
Sure.
And we're not order takers. I tell people all the time, the value is in our wisdom, in our insight, and we know how to get you there. Let us try, please give us the latitude to do that.
Give me some rope. I always say, I'm never going to hang myself, but I need a little bit of rope. And if you can do that, and when you have clients who say, is this typical? Should I be concerned about this? The only a person who would be giving a disingenuous, I don't want to say a not honest answer, would give the wrong answer. If there's a reason to be concerned, tell them. Right. If there's something they need to know about, tell them.
That's right.
As opposed to massaging it and BSing and this. I spoke with somebody yesterday and I said, I'm about to give you my no filter answer.
Oh.
And I gave them a no filter answer of what they were considering buying and what was involved in the timeline. And we got done. And they said, we talked to 6 people. You're the only person who just laid it out. I go, because I'm more concerned that you buy the right thing. If I get the job, that's great. If I don't get the job, there'll be another job. But I'd rather tell you the truth. This is the right way to go. Do this. It'll pay off for me at some point. Maybe not with you. Maybe with someone else that you tell, this guy was crazy. He just laid it out. No filter. They loved it.
And right. And I didn't hire him and he was right.
Yeah. I get one of those. I get 1 or 2 notes, emails. I used to get notes. I'm doing it a long time. I used to get little letters.
Right.
I didn't hire you, but everything you said, it went exactly the way you said it was going to go. So if you're in the neighborhood, I'll buy you a drink. I'm like, great. There's no agenda. I live on the East Side. I live on the Upper East Side. 85% of what I do is on the Upper East Side. I always say to people, I don't want to walk down the block, especially with my kid, see you coming, right, and go, come on, Jillian, we got to cross the street. I'm not doing that.
Right.
Not worth it. And so many times people will say, hey, Lee, and I'm going, Jillian, who is that? Or I'll turn to my girlfriend, Kaya. Kaya, do I know that person?
Right.
But that's okay. That's the better problem. The idea of having somebody call me out on something that I could have just said, look, this is it. This is how it's going to go down.
Right.
How do you know? It's 30 years doing this.
Right.
17. We're not amateurs at this anymore.
No.
And people are coming for the expertise and they're coming for the guidance. And if they're not, they shouldn't probably call you. They should call somebody who maybe wants to go to lunch as the vocation.
Right.
And you have better things to do. There are kids upstairs. What's the best part of isolation up till now?
Well, I think I mentioned it pretty early in the conversation that I used to be a touring musician. I wrote tons of music and I poured everything into real estate. And I had not written music in years, really. And so this has been this wonderful time where I said, you know what? In the next month, I'm going to start working on a book and talking about real estate and something like that. But it's been a time to really clear out the pipes. Creatively, I got to write 25 songs. Wow. And just orchestrate them and use GarageBand and just have a ball that didn't involve watching, binge watching Netflix. and just having so much fun. So that's been creatively like the most fun part of quarantine. I have a room that has city windows. I'm sitting in it. You know, the home office became a bit of a home studio.
That's great. What instrument?
I'm a singer first, guitarist second. And, you know, like I've shared the music with people. It's like, what a joy. I mean, I love music. For me is like my way of really opening my heart to people. And
Sure.
it's been so much fun. Like, we're all in this together. And that's kind of my way of like beyond, you know, guiding people home. It's like really opening and telling people like, we're all sharing this experience. So that's been the most fun.
That's awesome. And you're from the best, you know, well, all right, not the best, but it's pretty close to the best city on the planet.
Yeah, look, when I was a kid, my best friend's family owned Preservation Hall, which is, you know, a Dixieland Jazz Hall.
Right.
So and his dad owned and operated restaurants. So my childhood was like the opposite of the helicopter parenting. I spent the night with my buddy in the French Quarter where he lived, and we would like go into the Preservation Hall and fool around on the drums, play piano, and hang around in this old 200-year-old building, and then like wander around the French Quarter. And then on vacation, went on tour with the band. His mother was the tour manager. We'd like meet them on the road. So, I mean, it's in my bones. This whole, New Orleans is a great place. I have some business interests there. It's as soon as we come back, I mean, people in New York, there's a real affinity for New Orleans. And, you know, we're building out some real estate. You know, I think there's a lot of opportunity down there to do more real estate for me and for I have a business partner down there. So that's a wonderful and fun place for me to add my New York hat. You know, I think I've been doing business down there. Initially, it was just because my parents are there and I wanted to have more excuses to see them, but
sure,
it's turned into a much more fun thing there.
My saying about New Orleans is the worst meal you'll ever have in New Orleans is the best thing you've ever eaten any place on the world. That's it.
You know,
I'm sorry.
Just like to tie it back to real estate, just like buyers here don't realize the hassle that they put themselves through, you know, here, like, and I think this virtual touring will end up solving for a lot of that. I think people here sometimes put up with mediocre food when they don't have to.
Oh, it's the worst.
You know what I'm saying?
We do.
And you know, because so-and-so, you hear it's good and all this other stuff. I mean, I think that there's no fuss there. I don't like waiting in line anyway, but like you really can go almost anywhere and have a good meal. And it's all like, if it's not good, it's out of business. Here, I think there's enough sizzle in certain spots that will keep a restaurant alive longer than it should be alive. You know?
Let's do word association for a second. I say Crawfish Monica, and you say
Jazz Fest.
You can go into a bodega in New Orleans. It's like the best po' boy you've ever eaten.
Yeah, I know Danny and Clyde's. You know, the story, I send my kids to Jewish day school, so we do keep a kosher home.
Okay.
Okay. But outside of the house, we've been known, especially in New Orleans, to have seafood. Okay. And so it was Passover when I was courting my wife, and we were driving from the airport to my family's home I'm courting my wife. It happens to be Passover. So the Seder happened in New York, and then we're flying to New Orleans for Jazz Fest. So in concept, we're keeping Passover. My wife says, I'm not eating any bread while we're down there. I said, so you're not going to eat bread, you're not going to drink beer, but you're going to eat crawfish? And she said, yes. That was, you know, that was what we were going to do.
Tell her I like her.
So I said, all right, I get it. That's what you're going to do. Before we got to my parents' house, we'd already stopped at Danny and Clyde's for a shrimp po' boy, and that was the end of that conversation. But it was, you know, the dreams of trying to, you know, keep the laws of kashrut alive in that context were very hard. Like, my family has been down there since like the 1850s. Wow. You know, these are like German, Polish Jews that migrated down there, you know, on my dad's side. And it's a very assimilated community. in terms of their religious practice. But if you can imagine the rabbi eating crawfish in the synagogue,
I can totally imagine that.
Idea.
I can totally imagine. And he plays sax on the weekend, so I see that whole picture in my head. Which then leads to the question: what's the best thing you've eaten in quarantine since you're a food guy?
Oh my God, what is the best thing? My wife. Thank God for my wife. I mean, she's really the best. We started. There are a couple of foodies that are like private chefs that are part of the community at the day school.
Sure.
And so they're doing these like Sunday like cooking things. So recently they did this whole like Mediterranean, make your own pita, like make your own spicy sauces and everything. And it was out of control. I'm sort of like, at home, there's so much love that goes into the food, so it's not like any one thing. I think my favorite thing in quarantine was when my kids made dinner. They created a pop-up restaurant in our apartment. That's awesome. On a Saturday night, my 12-year-old and my 9-year-old made the restaurant. I mean, complete with like matches and menus, and they had a hostess table, and we dressed up. I had to put on a suit, and so that was really the best meal. Because we got to sit and be served, which is the only meal in the last 3 months where we got served. I mean, we ordered a little delivery here and there, but that was the best.
I trust you videotaped the entire thing.
We took a ton of pictures. I don't think there was like a Facebook post in the last 10 years that got as much love. People were like, that was just amazing.
That's awesome.
We took, they set the table. It was beautiful. Lights were down. They had their music. They thought of everything.
It's in the DNA.
Right.
It's in the DNA. It's not right. That's exactly it.
Very, very, very cute.
All right. I'm going to bang through a couple of fun questions, and we're going to close it out with, we'll go back to business. So you're a New Orleans guy. So what's the restaurant you miss the most? Who's the shout out going to?
In New Orleans or here?
No, anywhere. Could be New York. Could be there. Could be both. Give me one of each.
I'm gonna give the boring answer. My office is in Lincoln Center, and I like very much frequent the Smith, which is like down the street. I crave just wanting to walk in and see the people and get to eat my lunch and like have my business meetings, and like that's it.
Nothing bad about that. Nothing bad. What's your favorite pizza topping?
My favorite pizza topping, probably onions.
Okay.
Like onions and peppers. I'm a pretty simple pizza eater. Truth be told, like I didn't grow up with great pizza. That's the one thing that they don't have a lot of in New Orleans. So my wife grew up in Long Island, craves pizza.
Hey, beignets.
Not a huge pizza guy.
Hey, beignets. I could live.
You know what? I take it back. I really fall in love with like the white pizza, lately. So I would say if I had maybe the answer is white, like that white sauce on the pizza.
Okay. Since you got a 9 and a 12-year-old, this is a completely appropriate question. Have you made a TikTok yet?
Okay. Oh my God. Have I made a TikTok? Yes. My first TikTok I made early on in quarantine. And it just so happened, we took a picture of a listing of mine, and I was in front of it, and it looked like I was sitting on the couch, and it was perfect. And I'm a big fan of just trying new media, and it's a fun medium, like just how do you play with it? How does it fit into our social media strategy? I don't know yet, but we're not trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. We're just trying to have fun. So my kids are dancing like crazy.
It's addicting. It's all hell.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
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 They talk about Charlie D'Amelio. That's their big, big fan.
That's it. And but when you hear that people in business say they can spend 45 minutes on TikTok and it's better than anything on television, they're onto something.
Well, right before quarantine, we took a ski trip, and we were just listening to like on Spotify, like top 50 hits or whatever. And almost every song was on TikTok.
I know.
So where where culture is happening right now.
It lives on TikTok. This could be a question not appropriate, not applicable to a New Orleans guy. French fries or onion rings?
Oh. I mean, French fries, yes, for sure.
Okay.
But onion rings are like more of a dream kind of fantasy. Like they're not always great, but when they're good, boy, are they good.
All right, so I know what to bring you in your office when this all clears out.
Yes.
I've got a couple of people to bring.
In fact, if you said like, what is the food that I would like to have fresh French fries at a restaurant? Simple, steak free. Give me steak free anywhere.
You'd be good with that.
Yes.
Roller coasters, yes or no?
Yes. Spinny rides geared for 3-year-olds? No.
Okay. Roller coasters.
I'm not an astronaut. I dream of the future, but I am not an astronaut. I don't think I could tolerate the spinny rides.
Pickles, yes or you don't get it?
Pickles, I make at home. I pickle okra, Lee.
That's it. We're done. Interview's over. You make them.
I make my own pickles. A lot. I love it. I mean, it's like a thing. I give them away as home, when I go to people's homes and everything else.
I'll bring you the onion rings. I'll trade you for pickles.
There you go.
Deal?
That's a good deal.
Okay.
Dilly beans.
Dogs or cat? What?
Dilly beans. I make a lot of green beans,
Oh, God. My kid goes crazy for those. All right.
They eat the whole jar. Yeah.
All right.
We're
fine.
on.
That's fine. Dogs or cats?
So you're asking. My wife is allergic to both. But I grew up with both. I had dogs, then I had cats. I would say cats because they're more honest. They don't like you. That they ignore you completely.
Do you hear that?
I actually I wish I could play favorites. There, I'm really not sure. My mom's house has always been cats. I had dogs. Dogs are more loyal. They love you. They're excited to see you.
They are.
We can't have either.
Where's your happy place?
My happy place is where I'm sitting right now. It's been a real happy place. Like I feel very, if you look out the window, you see where I am. I'm right on Riverside Park. I love running. I've always wanted to live like where I am. I like to love where I live, and I never felt a need to have a separate all the time vacation place because I love where I live.
Great.
Like I walk out of my door, my happy place is really home. And as a kid, I could say like the dock where my grandmother was in the Intercoastal in Lake Worth, Florida, but that's not even a close second. New York is my happy place.
Wow. Yeah. Intercoastal. That's a close second for me. What's the first thing you want to do when you get the green light without a mask?
Probably give some big hugs to my family. My parents, my parents are divorced, but like both of them come visit. But my father and my stepmom have a place here, and they are a huge part of our lives. And so that's been really hard.
Yeah.
Hard for them, and so I just cannot wait for them to come and see our kids. That's going to be really, really powerful and fun.
And everybody's well.
Thank God everybody's good.
That's all that matters.
Knock on wood. Yep.
So let's get into the business.
Okay.
We did all the fun stuff.
All the fun.
You're doing deals. You're doing that. We're done with fun. We're going to deals. You're doing deals.
Yes, we're doing deals. We've got a contract that we should have signed in the next day or, on a gut job on the Upper West Side. The buyers could not be happier.
That's great.
We have offers on a new listing that we just brought to market that needs no work. We'll see how that goes. It's a little low, but we've got a lot of conversation around what's coming. So I anticipate action. It's just a matter of bringing the buyer and seller, into the same playing field.
Which begs the question, and I've been doing these interviews now. I started doing this 2 weeks into it as I was going to have a conversation with a friend.
Yes.
So now current events keep changing.
Yes.
What do you think buyers look like coming out of this? And that's a tough question because nobody has a crystal ball, but what do you see? What is your, the hairs on the back of your neck telling you?
what do buyers look like coming out of this?
Not how tall are they?
Right. I'm having the same conversation. Like, part of having it is to like both clarify in my own mind what is the buyer process going to look like, so I can explain it. Buyers are lost, and they're going to need a lot of handholding. Everybody's going to need handholding to get deals done. I think there's a lot of uncertainty. So
Sure.
the more, I think right now it's like providing that confidence that the market's going to come back, that city's going to come back. I think they're just hesitant. And so we're just inspiring them about what a great time it is to buy. And I think the more over time, they're going to get more and more confident. But the second that all the deal numbers start to print, July, August, September, boom, it's going to be amazing. So we're telling our buyers, like, get in now. This is when the deals are really happening. In 2 years, this is the time.
Right. A month or two ago, if you really had the head, but.
Right. But let's, right. People were calling me the next week, like, wow, it's going to be a great time. I'm like, sellers can't even get their head straight. I mean,
right.
I think that was early.
Right. Right.
Unless you already had a deal on the table and you were like in conversation. But I think, the buyers look like growingly confident in over the next 3 to 6 months.
Now, you said great advice is to have a business coach. What have you been doing to keep the business going? A, and B, have you changed the business model in the midst of this, or have you waited for it to kind of find its level? And just curious to know how are you addressing that?
It became increasingly clear that virtual is going to play, the role that virtual is going to play. So by definition, we're shifting our business coming out of this.
Sure.
So, that's a shift. And like, we're going to be shooting almost like explainer videos for people, because buyers really have to it's a visual, they don't really understand it yet. So
right.
we're going to take every extra effort to ensure that buyers get it and
right.
sellers get it.
Right.
And that's how we're going to both win business and close deals.
Sure.
And how have I kept the team inspired and motivated through this? We meet 5 days a week in the morning, and we've been doing that for a year plus, where we just meet and we like check in on each other. What are we grateful for? What are we proud of? Like, what's coming up? What's in the air that we can address and nip in the bud?
Right.
And like, so our own practice is about, it's simple stuff. It's like showing up on time, doing the little things that need to get done. That's embedded in what we do. That isn't changing.
No.
So I think just staying positive and having each other to stay positive, I think has kept us out of that rut where I think a lot of brokers and everyone can find themselves.
Sure.
So I think, that's my, that's the short answer.
And what's it like to drive these people in the midst of the pandemic madness? Not easy.
I have to ask myself or say to myself, what is the number one, positive, like, what does a thought leader, what does a visionary leader do today? Like, what am I doing today to be that visionary leader for myself and for the team?
Sure.
So, I mean, but asking that question is so empowering, because then you have these ideas on what you do to lead your team. So yeah. I'm grateful for them, because they force me to stay on my game. I'm beholden to them.
Yeah.
It's like when you have kids and you're married, you're like, well, I gotta step up and be a good dad today.
Right.
I can't drink my glass of wine, my vat of wine, and hide in the corner. I've got to do healthy things that enable me to be a good, to be a leader here and to be a leader for everyone else. But it's, I will say this, I always thought of myself as, having something of value to add to the brokerage community. So I've taken it on myself to like shoot videos and push them out to everyone. Like, here's an app that works, you should check this out, because I feel like the more professional we are as a brokerage community, professionalizing this business is critical. This is how we all win. I'm an all-win guy. I don't believe that you have to run your business where I win, you lose.
Right.
And so, I share it all, because I know I'm motivated to get up and do this every day, but I could tell people, here are the 10 things you do, and they're not going to do them. So what do I have to lose to sharing everything? Transparency.
Think about the last thought in the last sentence you said. It's brilliant, and it's a metaphor for what's going on in this world right now. It's the big metaphor right now. If everybody doesn't start winning, what are we doing?
I've always thought that the world is like an ever-growing pie. Like there's enough for everyone. But if you look at the world as if you win and I lose, like that's a terrible way to have to go through your day.
Terrible.
I feel like we create value, and like if I can create a deal for buyers and sellers where maybe they're not getting everything, but they're getting a lot. Like they can move forward in their lives. This other person can move forward in their lives. I'm not trying to screw look, there's some brokers who, think of themselves as like, I'm the shark and I'm going to get every penny. If that's what the broker you're looking for, I'm not your guy.
Right.
I'm going to get you a darn good deal and I'm going to represent you really well, but I'm not going to do it at the cost of having a dead body on the other side.
Right.
It's not how I'm going to run my business.
Yeah.
I don't think that is I'm not competing.
Right.
I'm being me, and I'm going to win business, and there's plenty of business to it.
And it's not a sustainable model. You can't sustain that way. It's not going to, everybody talks about New York City and how big and all of this. It's the smallest city in the world. Everybody knows everybody. And it'll never pay off. So here's my second to last closing question.
Okay, perfect.
What's the takeaway from all of this? What's your takeaway from all of this?
My takeaway from the last 3 months?
Sure.
My takeaway from the last 3 months is that every so often you need to step back from your business and do an accounting of what is important to you. And these moments, these are important moments in your life to really think about what's important to you. And I think it's great in a way that it clarifies things for us. Like, do we want to live in New York? I think that the people who stay around in New York are going to love being here. And the people that were like on the fence, they're going to leave. And it accelerated that opening up. So New York has needed a little kick in the butt over the last, say, 5 to 10 years. It's gotten a little mess. It's felt like it's lost its way.
Right.
So I think that if anything comes out of this, it's a renewed sense of love for this city and all that it has to offer, and a sense that we want to make this place better for everybody who's here.
It's a great thought. It's a great sentiment. My last question, because I left it out of the fun ones. Oh. Oreos, original, yes. Double stuff, or mega?
Oh God. Like I have a deal with my kids that there's certain closets I'm not allowed into. And the double stuff, the birthday cake, the vanilla ones.
Yeah, when did all that happen? I was
the mint. There's a mint chocolate one. I really can't.
Have you tried the thins that are dipped in chocolate?
I've got a sweet tooth that is so dangerous.
But have you tried those?
No.
All right, they're coming with the onion rings. I'm going to have 2 bags. I'm going to have onion rings that I'm going to have to move my ass, because the onion rings from where I bring them from, right, you need them in the 10 minutes out of the fryer, and then I'll bring dessert. I'll bring the thin ones. Woo! Yeah, they're not. It's no fun.
You're killing me.
It's no fun. But listen, you're from New Orleans. It's amateur hour. The Oreos are,
beignets are.
I'd walk a mile for a beignet, and that's just the way it goes. You're a great guy to take the time and do this. I really appreciate it. I hope it was fun. I learned a lot. I'm not saying I learn a lot in every one of these, but there was a lot of really good information. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. When this is all over, there'll be a guy that looks like me on your door. Oreos, onion rings. Thanks for taking the time.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
You bet. Take care.
Stay well. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You were great. Thanks so much, Scott.
You bet. Take care.
We'll edit our brains out and we'll send it over.
Okay. Love it. Okay,
Enjoy the
bye-bye.
day. Thank you.